Junior Olympics, final day, the broadcast booth is chaos. Matches back to back, some technical difficulties, learning on the fly, and then this 6'8" guy walks in. Olympic goalkeeper, credibility for days, and he says, "What can I do to help?" That is Genai Kerr. He's been helping ever since. Genai was the original host, one of the original hosts for the Goals at Water Polo podcast 4 or 5 years ago, founder of the 5-meter camps, USA Water Polo sport growth specialist, and teaching splash ball to thousands of kids who've never touched a water polo ball. Some athletes build their legacy on Olympic medals. Genai built his on making sure the next generation has a chance to play it all. This is the Extra Pass podcast, and this is what a Goals legend looks like.
Hi. How do I follow any of that? Right. I will say to the people that probably those athletes are all in college. Everyone that
those athletes are all in college and all winning championships. Yes, 100%.
And those 18U gold games, they're already, some of those guys are already on the national teams now.
Yeah.
But you were on day 4 of sitting with very limited shade and very limited protection from everybody when you got this all started. And now we have streaming services for our sport.
We do. Yeah, it was crazy. Like talk about the wild, wild west back when we were doing that. Like I will always remember that first Junior Olympics. We were streaming 2 courses, wool at left and wool at right. And I felt like I was taking on the freaking world. Like it was, it was nuts to look at where we were then and where we are now. And the thing about Genai that I always loved about Genai is that he's always looking out for someone. So like whether it's shade or it's this or that, the nice thing is he has this pretty intimidating frame that he uses to get what he wants done. So like, hey,
I think it's the smile. So
yeah,
cut to the front of the concession stand, get you some crushed ice with Coca-Cola because you like your caffeine, but not hot coffee in the middle of the day.
Yeah. So Genai, as you remember back to those as this Goals legend that you are, take me back to like in that situation of walking up into the booth. What were you thinking about? Like, what are some of the things that, I mean, you literally just came in, as I recall. It came in, sat down, I handed you a headset, and we've done every Junior Olympics together since from that time. And it's been a fantastic tradition. It's one of my favorite events of the year to spend that time with you. Tell me how your thought process and how we got into that.
Well, I knew who you were just from coaching in Utah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know your vision and your plans of, really publicizing our sport. But from day one of JOs, even with the archaic system that you have compared to now, I heard so many different people be like, "Oh, did you see this game? No, I didn't get a chance to make it to that pool, but I was watching online."
Right.
And so I was bouncing as I do from pool to pool. And so anytime I got to Willette, I saw you over there doing your thing, and every single minute you were busy, whatever you're doing. And finally, at the championship game, where you actually have a breath between, literally a breath between games, I came over to congratulate you mostly, and thank you for what you're doing. And next thing I know, I'm sitting down, we're talking, before the start of the game, and you said, "You want to join us?" I said, "Sure. I'm horrible at this, but I'll follow your lead." And we got to talk some polo and really promote the kids that were putting the effort in the pool. And like we said, the rest is history.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And you mentioned this before, like we're recording this a couple of days after the 2025 national championships, right? Where UCLA had just had a heart stopping win over USC. And a lot of the, a lot of those athletes, I was watching them I was there in person. It's like 10 of these 14 athletes that are in the water at some point had played on Game On Live Studio. Like it was amazing. And to be able to see that. So I would love to know, like in your, how has the streaming and don't say nice things about me. Like how has the streaming changed the sport? Like, how do you feel like for people to be able to see and watch water polo and other like Olympic sports, how do you feel like that has had an impact in the sport?
A couple different ways. First, I'm going to stereotypically say the grandparents, right? That may
Yeah,
not be
yeah,
able to travel and get out to all those games and hustle from one pool and 45 minutes later, be in another pool in a different city, to be able to watch their grandkids play or their,
right,
friends, families, whoever it is. That's part one. The kids themselves, I think, feeling like professional slash presentable athletes of actually getting some
right,
coverage and documenting the amazing feats that they're doing. College coaches, again, like there's Junior Olympics specifically is the world's largest water polo event in the world since it's the world's largest. And even college coaches can't get to see all the games they can see. And now instead of relying on a parent holding a cell phone up and sending off recording clips, they can get unbiased, you know, full game footage and do some recruiting to see who their next generation NCAA players are going to be.
right.
Um, and then I
Yeah,
guess and then the last thing is I guess also coaches can look at, oh my gosh, this is, while I was coaching here, this game was going on over here, and this is
right.
who we're going to match up with. Let me see who's hot on their team right now. Who do we kind of have to mark? So again, for scouting, it's phenomenal.
Fantastic. What I mean, and let's talk a little bit about you. Like, I think this is going to be a fun segment. You were a 2004 Athens goalie on the Olympic team. You had I know your story as how you got into water polo, but give me the 2-minute version of the kind of your transformation from an athlete. Obviously, you have the perfect frame for a goalie, but how did you become an Olympian? Like, what's your story in your back end?
There's no 2 minute, other than saying it was not through
That's fair.
splash ball.
You take what you
Wasn't
can
even
take
through
whatever
Junior
you want.
Olympics because I wasn't involved in either one of those events.
Right.
Um, so for me, it was basketball.
Yeah.
Was my sport, my passion. I grew up, just being active, like most kids, climbing trees, in the ocean, playing soccer, and in high school, my favorite sport at the time was basketball. That's where my friends were getting college scholarships. That's where I was going to some basketball camps and really focusing my athleticism, my athletic side of the career on. And water polo was because I transferred to Coronado High School, and the top athletes, even though I thought I was athletic in basketball, the top athletes at our school were Lane Bobian, Brian Bent, these other guys that were returning, and alumni like Jack Bowen,
Yeah.
and were already in college. And there weren't that many guys from Cornell High School going on for basketball. So I was like, oh, I'm a star athlete. Let me go and play water polo. I was in the corner being taught how to egg beater.
Right.
Not nothing else other than, okay, hey Genai, don't care how tall you are, don't care how long you are. You can't breaststroke kick and just bounce up and down. Okay, you have to leg beer and be balanced. And that was really humbling for me. And that was going back to Randy Burgess and Dave Troop, who were coincidentally actually back at Coronado High School as of just this year, working again together with club and high school stuff. But yeah, it was just the idea of the fundamentals. And again, like the first coach for water polo, because I was already being recruited for basketball, was the coach from Steve Heaston from Cal Berkeley. And he
Uh-huh.
came to my parents' house in the winter because I think all the top athletes had already been recruited, so they were seeing like who was left.
Right.
And water polo season's over, and so he came to one of my basketball games and liked the way I hustled and interacted with the coaches and my teammates, and offered me a scholarship that night when he came to our house.
Wow.
And I was too big of a baby to accept going to Cal. I went on my recruiting trip. It rained every day, and I was wasn't
I,
I wasn't brave enough
I
to
was
get
in
wet.
Northern California last weekend, and it is freezing cold every time I go there. Like, it's like,
I,
oh, I came back to Salt Lake, and it was like it is warmer here in Salt Lake than it is in Northern California right now. So
those
anyway,
men and women that play in those outdoor pools are
oh my
very, very,
god.
very brave, and I was not one of them. So I said, no matter where I go to college, it's not going to be East Coast because I was looking at basketball schools in the East Coast. It's definitely going to be West Coast to Southern California, and so that narrowed my college choices down a lot. And was again still leaning a little bit more towards basketball until I went to UC Irvine, and I just liked the family feel of the team. That was the
Right.
number one thing that sold me on it. Not a big recruiting budget. I think I got $20 to go to um, what's the Wahoo's fish tacos,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
that was, and no one sent me an email back then, that mid 90s, right? Email was
Yeah.
just starting a thing.
Yeah.
3-page email of everything that I sucked at. It's
Right.
like, oh, he actually pays attention. Like, I need to improve my 8 meter. I need to gain some more weight. I need to have a better accuracy in my passing. And the combination of him being so honest and him just being Newland and the camaraderie of the team sold me at UC Irvine. And after that, it was just work ethic, being
Right.
around a bunch of guys that knew what to do, and I just followed along.
Nice. But I mean, you're a natural athlete. I mean, you move well, right? And obviously you have some gifts of height and length, but uh, talk about your work ethic. I would love to know more about that and how you have been taught that or how you've developed that.
I think I had a decent work ethic most of my life. Just my dad's from Jamaica as a spear fisherman, so he gets reaps the
Yeah.
rewards of what he puts in. That was his career for 20 years for providing for our family.
Yeah.
But really eye awakening is guys like he's gonna hate when I do this. Omar Omar, they're this tall. 5'9".
Yeah.
Definition definition of an overachiever. Ryan Bailey, who's the beast of beast 2 meter men, like
Yeah. Yeah.
was not that going into college. He was a little bit on the bigger side.
Uh-huh.
Dan Klatt, super fast, um, and continue to improve his water polo skills every single day as he continues to do, even coaching now. Jeff Powers from San Luis Obispo. Like we had 5 guys at UC Irvine that were all training. They might have been trained for Olympics. I wasn't even trained for Olympics. At that point, I was trained to get a little bit better every single practice.
Right.
And it
Right.
was guys like that putting in the work and just kind of just supporting each other. So it was by default being surrounded by what I call overachievers.
Yeah. And so, and when talk about the selection onto the national team for the Olympics, like how did that process go down? Not something that you're training for, but clearly happened. Like how did that identification happen? How did
Well,
you end up in that situation?
so through the beginning, that's, I was just trying to improve. And then
Right.
after my junior year, getting some accolades and setting some records, I got this really cool letter on the handwritten letter at that time. Genai Kerr, you're cordially invited to come train with the U.S. national team. 1999. I'm like, yes, I'm an Olympian. It's
Right.
like, no, train
No,
with the
train with
national
the
team. We
different thing.
need,
Right.
and really what it should have said was, we need some young guys to come help set up the shot clocks, pull lane lines, tarps, because they did tarps and stuff like that
Right.
back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I would do my double days at college, go to all my classes, and then we had late night practices in Long Beach, actually, most of the time. And those practices, I spent the majority of the probably first 4 or 5 months doing exactly that, pulling lane lines, setting up shot clocks, get in, train, do all the
Yeah.
conditioning stuff. And then when it was time to scrimmage, someone needed to run the shot clocks.
Right.
And so I was back out of the water.
Right.
But I
Wow.
was around the top athletes in the entire country.
Right.
And that is when I was like, now I really want to train to be an Olympian. And
And
I
what
had
year
a
was
couple,
that? That was 99.
that
Are you
was 1998 going
98?
1999.
Okay.
Um, and I just started doing every little thing I could, like not just utilizing my strengths. At that time, I really started focusing on my weaknesses
Hmm.
and working on reaction time, working on, conditioning, just all the smaller things I could control. And when I had an opportunity to get in because, one of the starters got tired, I would go in and just try and do my thing. And I remember the first national team trip that I went on. I was not invited. So I had experience of going on uninvited trips from the junior national team back when Mike Ash was the team manager, because we joke about this and found out that they had been placing bets on me. So we rewind another year before
Uh-huh.
that, a couple years actually. So coming out of high school, I told you I had these great athletes in
Yeah.
high school, my high school team, and so I wanted to go and train on the junior national team like they were all doing. So I went to tryouts, and it wasn't different from ODP is now with all these different zones. It was one tryout, 200 plus, 250 athletes, one pool, and I got cut the very first day of a 2-day tryout. rightfully so. We did a time 200, and I always joke because Michael Kavik, not probably not pronounce his last name properly. I apologize for that. Had that phenomenal finish with Michael Phelps, and
Right.
Phelps ended up touching him out the wall, a little
Yeah. Yeah.
sideways.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I got long arms, so I kind of did the same thing. We're coming in out for a time 200, no goggles, had long dreadlocks at the time,
Wow.
and coming to the wall. I'll touch this guy, Bailey. I don't even remember if it was Sam or Andy Bailey now because I get the two brothers mixed up. San Clemente guys went to
Uh-huh.
UCLA. Like, Genai, yes, you have another lap. So I'd swam a 150 in the time they'd swam a 200. And just clueless. So it was a very humbling 50 where I had to swim back the other side of the pool and back again all by myself. Um, so yeah, I was there. Saturday got cut. Sunday I was stuck because I had gone on a ride up to Orange County with my friends that made the team.
Uh-huh.
And so I just stayed around for practice. And like, oh, they didn't kick me out of practice. So I came back the next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend. Then they went to a trip, and then I came back when they came back from the trip. And they went to Junior World Championships. I think they might have gone to Cuba. I don't even remember. And then they came back again. Long story short, Mike Ash said the coaches had been betting on me. It's like, does he know he's cut? How long do you think he's gonna keep showing up for? But following year, I had lots of experience of, not even being in the top 200 athletes, but training with the top 13
Right.
and making it into that group, and then making the next team for juniors, going up to a tournament in Canada.
Cool.
So fast forward now to 2000 Olympics in Sydney. They had a pre-tournament in that spring, and I've been putting in my work for all 6, 7, however many months, right? I thought it was a long time in comparison to the returning Olympians had been doing it for years, but I
Right.
put in my work, so I was ready to make the team. And John Vargas forgot to call my name.
Oh,
That's what I thought. I thought he forgot. I was like,
right.
Vargas, you didn't call my name. He's like, no, I think you have a promising career ahead of you, but right now I'm just taking some more experienced players. And so the team left and went to go train in Australia for a pre-tournament.
Uh-huh.
And it was my college spring break. Had just finished my last college season, and so I got a standby ticket and flew to Australia. This is
So the,
we
the
just had
message
email
here is
back
just
then.
keep showing up. I love it. All
Oh yeah, I
right.
just kept showing up,
Just keep showing
and
up,
I
baby.
didn't realize how big is Australia. It's like this big, right? A little bit divot on the side,
Little, it's not very big.
and
Not
so
very
I
big at all.
showed up in Sydney. That's not even where they were.
Right.
They're in a city called Cambria. Who puts the Institute of Sport in Cambria?
Right.
But
Well,
I
yeah.
emailed, I was like, I actually had emailed Omar. I was like, Omar, where are you guys? I'm in Sydney. He's like, we're in Cambria, but we're coming to Sydney in a couple days. And so sure enough, the team came back up to Sydney. I got
Uh-huh.
a little hostel and was already running out of money. I'd already spent like half my money on
Right.
taxis and hostels. I walk in the pool deck, got my backpack, big smile, dreads, smiling, and Vargas is yelling at the team about something, and everyone started turning aside. And he did this double take. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And like the stars aligned
Uh-huh.
because as one of our good mutual friends, Brad Schumacher,
Yeah.
was undecided in what he wanted to specialize in. He was doing both,
He's doing
with
both.
swimming and
Yeah.
water polo.
Yeah.
So he went to go do a thing for World Championships, for the U.S. swim team.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
he left Wolf, and now all of a sudden a roommate situation opened up, and so I was able to crash with the team. I was able to train with the team, not play, not do anything else because I wasn't rostered on the team.
Right.
And it was a really cool experience for me to see some of the pressure and some of the situations you play in. Because you talk about, we are just talking about the NCAA finals with
Yeah.
UCLA and USC, and the
Yeah.
energy there. And it was both back and forth, cross time rivals.
Yeah.
Being Australia down under, like the Australians would make a shot block, field shot block, and the steam would just erupt.
Right.
The US would score and back, and it was
Silent.
just me clapping.
Yeah.
Looking around.
Just you.
It's like, so understanding like just a little bit of a taste, of what it's like to go play in Russia or in Hungary or
Right.
Serbia or anywhere else where you don't have the fan base, and the
Yeah.
fans aren't for you, the officials aren't for you. You're really playing for your U.S. Olympian teammate next to you.
Cool. Very cool. What in terms of that process, then I mean you're just showing up at some point you're named to the Athens team. How did that
Oh, that
happen?
was Sydney. So I got cut from Sydney.
Yeah,
Um, and then came back and started training. And then Vargas got hired at Stanford. I was like, oh my gosh, I put in all this work with Vargas, and he doesn't. I don't even know who the new coach is going to be that knows how hard
right.
I work. And it was a new coach. It was Ratko Rudic,
Yeah,
the most decorated coach in
yeah,
our sport for
yep.
the entire world. And so I started the whole process over, and I just went back to what I knew of just trying to be a good teammate and improve a little bit every day and do what I could. And within a few months, I was able to make my first major tournament and then go to world championships that um, the following year, and just kind of kept on going from there.
All right, Genai. So you made it to the 2004 Athens Olympics game. You're obviously people know you because of your frame, 6'8". You've got all of these credentials that can really intimidate people, but you've got this amazing infectious smile, right? Everyone says you're one of the most approachable athletes in water polo. I can attest to that. How did you become that guy? Like how did you become the guy that's like just showing up in Sydney, right? Like just being there and making sure what's the backstory behind that for Genai?
I'm going back to my parents.
Yeah.
I'm all literally a elementary school teacher. My dad's a Jamaican. So I've
Okay.
just always just been that nice guy, just getting everyone's per diem and going to Costco and doing team barbecues, and half the guys living in my little 3-bedroom condo in
Right.
Huntington Beach. So for me, that's who I was, and that's who I will always be. The athletics came later.
And this is a hard pressing question. I never realized that you had dreads. How long were your dreads?
Mid back, like
Wow,
top of the
nice.
shoulders, mid back. Yeah,
That's cool. I'm gonna have to go back and find a
some
photo
vintage.
at the some vintage Janai because that's amazing, incredible stuff. Just talk about your Olympic experience. Talk about Athens 2004, like as a goalkeeper. What were some of the best memories coming out of that Olympic experience that you had?
Funny thing, water polo wise, the Olympics is a smaller tournament than World Championships.
Right.
Less teams qualify. Um, and leading up to it, Rocco really had a very interesting approach. And
Hmm.
it took me a while to kind of understand that. Is he always say, he didn't care about the result, he cared about the process, you know?
Hmm.
And, we could play a team and win 10-8, and he'd be frustrated because we were supposed to hold him to 6.
Right.
We could lose a game 3-4. I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
And he'd be fine and happy because we did focus on what we need to focus on defensively, and the goals will come. Another thing you would say too is you always have to be better, 2 goals better than any team um, playing with foreign refs.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Say more
I
about that.
was
I think that's very true. I think that's pretty insightful, right? A Rot, you have to win by more than 2 goals. Tell me why he would think that.
perception is reality, right? I
Right.
think officiating is a position within water polo that I've been afraid to do because I am that likable guy and I don't want someone to not like me.
Right.
And I've seen, the team that loses, they're really frustrated at the refs because they made them lose. And the
Right.
team that won sometimes is frustrated because they should have won by more
Right.
because of the referee. Um, but I think it's almost, I don't say, I don't use the word given, but you want to assume that you're not going to get the calls that you want at the highest levels,
Right.
um, and really play to earn everything. And in doubt, be a minimum of 2 goals better than the other team, so you're not leaving up to chance with last second stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the men's team is still to this day trying to do what the women's team has done multiple times now, of getting that gold medal. Um,
Right.
there's just so many forget good, phenomenal athletes on the men's side, and so many phenomenal teams, especially where the culture for their sport is dominating in their
Right.
countries. Um, so I to touch base on that a little bit more because it's a pet peeve of mine that, people, oh, the Hungarians are so much better with this or that. Like, no, our best athletes aren't even exposed to water polo typically
Right.
until
Right.
later ages. Think half we had 50 Ben Hallecks to choose from
Yeah.
at you know at splash ball age, when instead of doing AYSO or T-ball or something else, they're getting into water polo.
Right.
Um,
And I think that's I think let's kind of talk through that a little bit, because there's not been anyone probably more so than you, right, that has had that. You've made that your specialty, is like trying to get kids introduced to the sport, being a huge advocate for the culture of water polo. What have you seen across the country as you've traveled to that we can't that has worked, right, to get kids into the sport? What do you think? What do you think has been some of the best things that have happened?
I don't want to say the easiest, but the first thing that comes to mind is just exposure,
Hmm.
right? Um, you drive by and you see soccer games, you see baseball games. You don't necessarily see basketball games, and you definitely don't see water polo games in other parts of the country because they're in indoor pools. And then typically, even in like places like California where there's outdoor pools, they're fenced off, and it's not typically inviting.
Right.
So when they
Yeah.
have these big exhibition games now, right, just with international games, or you even do the National League games in different places and see those high level competitions, I think that helps a lot because it gets exposure.
Right.
I would love to see beach polo all over the place in lakes and ponds and
Right.
depending on how
Right.
clean the pond is, right? Oceans. Um, Almost like beach volleyball gives a new level of exposure to the volleyball sport. Um, and then part two is, intentional, going out and
Right.
doing clinics, instructional things. And then the teams that have existing programs, I think it starts sometimes maybe with younger siblings, but then bringing those younger siblings' friends and a couple other people and starting younger programs. And then some coaches are really taking on themselves to focus on the youngest age groups
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get introduced, like I said, 5, 6, 7. There's a big push now within USA Water Polo to partner with water safety. So as you're learning how to swim and be safe in any body of water, you're also feeling comfortable holding a ball and learn how to
Right.
egg beater,
Yeah.
and then realizing how much fun it is.
Yeah.
Earlier, I talked about Brad Schumacher being a dual sport athlete, and there are only a handful that are at that level. But at the high school level, I feel like a majority of the athletes in the past were swimmers and water polo players.
Yeah.
And just in my time, which is crazy, it's been almost 30 years now, um, there's been so much more specializing. Like, oh, you're a swimmer, you're a water
Right.
polo player, you're
Right.
around water polo, you're not even swimming, you're around swimming, you're not playing water polo. And I think that actually hurts the sport.
Yeah.
Sports, I should say, both sides of
I agree.
aquatics.
Yep. I would be interested. Like, I mean, obviously, we've mentioned you have the advantage of being 6'8", so that's a helpful thing. But how did your development in basketball and that athleticism and the dual sport kind of thing help you in your water polo, right? Like in terms of developing that the feel of the game, or how being a dual sport athlete, how did that help you?
The basics of being a good teammate,
Right.
communication, relying on each other, like it could be any team sport. And then I think of being a ball sport. And then, in fact, there was a land sport that if you look at land based sports versus aquatic sports, it's about
Uh-huh.
4 times faster. So if you
Right.
take Michael Phelps versus Usain Bolt in the same distances, land athletes are going to be 4 times faster.
Hmm.
Same as like football and water polo.
Right.
And so the plays develop a little bit faster in land-based sports like
Yeah.
lacrosse,
Yep.
basketball. And so I think I've had some athletes that can't swim competitively, right? They can
Right.
swim to stay afloat.
Right.
Major league baseball players, Angels, some basketball players, and we played some beach polo stuff, and they're decent first
Right.
minute playing,
Yeah.
right? They're not going
They
to play
know
a
how the
whole
game
game
moves.
going up and down.
Yeah. Right.
So I want to say, I want to think that it definitely helped me with field of vision, anticipating things, being a little creative maybe in times, um, and just enjoying it too. Because of all the sports I've ever been exposed to in the world, yes, I'm biased, but I feel like water polo is one of the most dynamic sports.
Right. Interesting. What about your 5 meter camps? I think that's how we connected originally years ago, years and years ago. We came to Olympus and did some camps there. How just talk about the impact that you feel like those camps have had, and how they've helped support the growth of water polo.
Hopefully I know they've done some, but hopefully they've done a lot more than just
Right.
some growth. And that was just a passion project. Like I love water polo so much, like most people
Right.
do. And one of the first camps I ever did out of state was in Oregon at a YMCA when I was
Hmm.
still in college. And my sister um, was already playing, and we went up to visit my grandparents in Oregon. There was a YMCA, and um, like just kind of lent our quote unquote expertise. And that was the first time I did like a YMCA water polo camp. And that was voluntary. And everywhere I'd go, different places, I would, you know, do a camp or a clinic. And by the time I was, I don't know, still pretty young, I'd been to
Yeah.
maybe half the states, places that don't even have water polo still to this day. But, I'd bring gear with me and just do
Right.
stuff. And
Right.
now with inflatable goals, it makes it so much easier.
And so you're still out doing those camps. You can still get booked to do those. Yeah.
Yeah, I do camps all over the country and all over the world. That's what I'll probably do until I can't move anymore.
There you can't move anymore. So what? How did? So the origin is just like you're traveling and you decide to run a water polo camp where you're hanging out at. Is that
So
is
then
that
at one point in college, we started OG water polo,
okay?
Omar and Genai water polo.
Okay.
And then he left me. He bailed just to go to medical school at Harvard.
Just that
Excuses,
one
right?
thing.
Like,
Like
yeah,
seriously, get your priorities straight.
um, yeah. And I partnered with Wolf Weigo and Brad Schumacher. It's funny, I just have
Uh-huh.
to say the full names because most people know. And we
Yeah.
started Tools of a Champion. And so we had our own camps and clinics business going on. They had their East Coast connections, connected stuff all up and down the East Coast. We did stuff in Texas. Um, and then they focused more on product. So they
Mm.
brought Cap 7, which was, I think, as far as I know, was like the first water polo true like a
Company.
supplier
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
by water polo players.
Right.
And I kept my focus and passion with coaching, on camp specifically.
Right.
And then I changed to Olympic Academy, kind of like Olympus,
Right.
until I had a cease and desist from the International Olympic Committee.
Oh wow. There you go.
Well,
You got swooped
yeah,
up.
I mean it was early on. We had like, 5,000 where you could max out just with friends, on
Uh-huh.
Facebook before I had business profiles. And on Google, we were ranked number one and two over the International Olympic Committee. Um, and so got a cease and desist. Fortunately, I had a good relationship with Peter Uroff, who talked to the SOC, who then in turn talked to the IOC and gave me like a 6 month time frame to change stuff over. And then that's when we became 5 meter water polo camps. And then
Nice.
a few years after that, I was really growing and caught the eye of Nike US Sports Camps
Yeah.
and had partnered with them to run a lot of the overnight camps at universities. And we've just kind of stuck with it over I want to say years, but over the decades.
Oh yeah. I mean, so when would you run? What year did you run your first camp?
I started coaching right away, like 1995, like right when I was in college, when I thought I
Right.
knew everything. I knew
Right.
more then than I do now, for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
um,
Right.
but small camps, late 90s, like
Okay.
1998, like when
Yeah.
maybe I
So coming up on
started
30
doing well
years.
in
That's
college,
crazy.
Orange
Yeah.
County. And that was one thing that was kind of unique is I was able to do camps even in the same towns without burning bridges.
Yeah.
I'll do one camp at one clinic at Corona Del Mar, one clinic at Newport Harbor High School, clinic at
Right.
Mater Dei, just as they were kind of getting going. Um, and I never, it wasn't like a club where people were club hopping and doing things like that. I was
Yeah.
just coming in and sharing my experiences and trying to motivate kids and coaches. Um, and then
Well.
I've been able to work with a lot of, I call them developing water polo nations.
Mhm.
The New Zealand,
Yeah.
a lot of teams in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Bahamas, New Caledonia.
Wow.
Um, so I've gone down to Colombia. I've gone down to a lot of different places and just kind of let my expertise.
Yep. So Janai, you're a go-getter. As you've gone through this, you have just showed up, make sure sometimes not ever take a no for an answer. I love the idea of they're just taking a bet to see if how long you're going to continue to show up. So that's great. So and you just mentioned that you've like run these clinics all over the world, everywhere from Colombia in South America to probably Columbus, Ohio, right? And Salt Lake
Oh
City,
yeah,
Utah, all of these kind of places. And
Cincinnati,
so
Ohio.
right? And so you're all over the place. In the past years, you've had a role with USA Water Polo where you're kind of the ambassador for as a sport growth specialist for splash ball. I want to know, like, just tell us from your perspective as you've been all over the world doing this. What do we, make it more visible? Yes, but like, what are some specific things that we need to do to make water polo grow?
Domestically or internationally?
Yeah, domestically. Let's talk in the United States. Like, how do we compete with lacrosse? How do we compete with flag football? How do we compete with soccer? Right? Like, how do we get those athletes to come in and try water polo?
So Texas, I mean, right now for within the U.S., like a lot of eyes are on Texas because of
Mhm.
the phenomenal growth they've had.
Right,
They've been playing water polo for a long time, but the big push, the methodical, strategical push to make it become a UIL, which is
right.
their like state sanctioned sport,
Yep.
has helped tremendously. And then along with it, they're working on doing a really good job of coaching retention,
Hmm.
coaches retention, as well as referee training. I just heard 2 days ago that they're paying up to $75 a game.
Wow.
So for officials, it's like they're really focusing on the infrastructure and the support of the growth. Um, and I think if a place like that, with the population growth and the size of the state, you know, it can be as successful as it is. A lot of other places can grow that same way because historically it's been dominated in California.
Right.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you're in Utah,
Yep.
but you don't have any varsity programs,
We
Division
don't
One
talk club.
varsity
Yeah, talk
programs,
club here. Yep.
and so I think that's another big hurdle, right? Because even in the entire state of Texas, with all this growth, they only have one varsity program.
Right.
And then you have East Coast, where you have some East Coast colleges, but it hasn't been as much focus on the youth development in, say, New York. But now you have clubs,
Right.
like it's not just Greenwich. They had
Right.
Chelsea Pierce. They had um, Brooklyn, was it called Brooklyn Hustle? I think.
Brooklyn Hustle. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so all these little, not little clubs, but these clubs now that are actually really competing and doing well. Greenwich is finishing top in a lot of the tournaments
Yeah.
they play in, all regardless of where they are. And
Well,
so,
and it was fun to see success. They're putting athletes in the championship games, right? You have kids like the Old brothers that were playing in the
yeah,
national championship, right? And you have Ben Forer who was shooting for in the semifinal for Stanford, taking the winning shot. Like kids from all over the country starting to show up, right? And so I would be curious, like, can you link that to some of the growth efforts that you've worked on, like in terms of being able to generate excitement about water polo in specific regions.
I not that I've done myself. I think just the
Right.
coaches that have
Yeah.
dedicated themselves to recreate high level training wherever they are.
Right.
And being geographically isolated is one thing, but you have to understand, like, look at the women's national team that's won multiple gold medals, and their closest competition, is they have to travel out of country.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing with our men's team. We just medaled in the last Olympics, and you know the top teams are typically Eastern Europeans.
Right.
So the practice is that the guys push each other. When they're together for the limited time that they are, they're going at it and making every single practice like a high level learning
Right.
experience.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And now clubs are doing that, and I think that a team like Greenwich demonstrating that you can be geographically isolated from the best
Right.
competition and be prepared to go into it.
Yeah. What about, I mean, you've seen as you've traveled, again, you've seen a lot of teams, you've seen a lot of clubs. What what are some of the principles or hallmarks as you walk into facilities and are talking to coaches? What makes them successful, right? What are some of the things that you're looking for, or looking at when you're around, of like, yeah, if we could do this one, two, three, four, five things, not being in California, right, to help build a robust culture of water polo, what would you say some of those things are?
For the coaches, it's just consistency,
Hmm.
year after year, and not getting discouraged that, oh my God, I work so hard. Um, and I talk a lot about 4 year cycles because that's an
Yeah.
Olympiad is four
Right.
years. And, even at the age group level, I got these guys together and these girls, and they're working so hard all year long, and we lost every single game this year. Well, guess what? If they do that 3 more years, they're not going to lose every single game.
Right.
They may not win JOs, but
Right.
they're going to be competitive and they're going to be a heck of a lot better than any other group that had gone being prepared going into high school.
Right.
So I think one, the younger that they get exposed to the sport is probably the number one thing. Not that they're going to play it year round, but just that they're not getting sucked into some other athletic avenue and not being able to feel comfortable trying water polo.
Yeah.
Does that, I don't,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not, again, like I know some clubs, depend on revenue and
Right.
the whole thing with year round, but I think that revenue can be broken up, a girls season, a boys season,
Yep.
season off. And then hopefully, the biggest issue then after consistency is going to be having consistent pool time.
Right.
And there just aren't enough facilities. I think, I don't know a single geographic area that they're like, oh, we have,
We have too
unlimited
many
pool time
pools.
wherever we
Yeah,
are.
we have too many pools sitting around. We can't keep
That
the grass
that
warm.
doesn't exist, and
Right.
I don't know a good logistical way to accommodate that other than creative ways of shortening practices and doing dry land and chalk talks, and then you do your stretches and you just get in straight away and do water
Yeah.
polo, um, and make it as efficient as possible. When I coached at Brown University with Felix on
Yeah.
the East Coast, they have their own set of Ivy League rules,
Hmm.
and so we did very little team conditioning.
Hmm.
We had a single test set, and if you pass that test set, we play water polo, or
Right.
do water polo drills. And if
Hmm.
you don't, then you're going to your individual conditioning. I think that works for maybe high school and collegiate athletes. It doesn't work so well for age group athletes.
Right. So you're doing all this work, camps, splash ball, supporting water polo from Hawaii. You mentioned, but you've been doing this for 30 years plus some time growing into it. Like, what keeps you so invested in the sport and growing the sport?
It's a passion. It's fun. I've been with my wife 20 years, next year, and even when we're early in our dating relationship, like I remember saying something along the lines of, "Well, why don't you just marry water polo?" that
I mean,
that was an
your
argument that
wife
we
and
had.
Melissa, they could probably get around and like figure out like what's more important here, Shawn, right?
Yeah, it's like your coach said it was optional. Why are you going to practice instead? You're like, and I can never explain that. Like unless someone gets it, you can't explain that.
Right.
Um, And so in this stage of my life, my focus now is my family, my wife, and my kids. But I still have that my first love,
Right. Yeah.
uh, and that's just what it is. It's just a love.
So talk about life in Hawaii. It's pretty amazing. If you don't follow Genai on Facebook and Instagram, the stuff he posts makes you feel like you're living in the wrong spot. Like how has living in Hawaii and moving there, has that shaped your perspective on the sport? Because I know like your kids surf and body surf and climb trees and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Like how has life in Hawaii shaped help continue to build your perspective?
The lifestyle itself just makes me feel like I went back in time.
Right.
Not just like technology wise, just slower pace of life. Like give my kids an AirTag or an Apple Watch and say, "I'll see you tonight."
Yeah.
They'll
Right.
go. I mean, we live in a pretty special place in Honolulu Bay and North Shore
Yeah.
of Kauai. So
Wow.
it's already a small place, even within Kauai. It's kind of remote.
Right.
Um, but small community. I was the PTA president for a couple of years. I'm still the the school board president for the preschool.
Love
Um,
that.
it's it's just a giving community. So not anything to do with sport, but to do with athleticism. I remember first moving here and one being humbled by the ocean, even
Yeah.
after lifeguarding in Newport Beach for years.
Right.
Just it's a different ocean here. Pacific
Right.
Ocean, different ocean.
Right.
I guess it has to do like there's actual scientific reasons why the tectonic plates have a sharper hit, like when
Yeah.
a steeper incline when the water hits. But being humbled by the ocean, and then being humbled by these 10-year-old kids doing stuff that I can only dream of doing
Right.
athletically,
Right.
of double flips out of rope swings and landing in the river and getting sucked down into crazy shore break. Like, you don't have fins on. It's no lifeguard. Like, where are your parents? I don't know if I can save you. And then them coming out of the water laughing and going and doing it again.
Right.
Um, it's like New Zealand. You do those manus, those
Yeah.
almost like a cannonball. One,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not even flexible enough to fold it in half like a scissor to do it. Two,
Right.
I'm not brave enough to jump off of cliffs and land in
Yeah.
little potholes. But I would love it if we brought back the original person of color, because the first person of color that I know of to play water polo for the U.S. Olympic team was Duke Hanamoku.
Uh-huh.
Um, and people know him as an Olympic swimmer, but he was also an Olympic water polo player.
Really? I didn't know that.
And
That's cool.
oh, there you go, a little
That's awesome.
history for you.
Yeah. And
Um,
surfer, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
the
I mean,
like
legendary surfer.
legendary surfer, right? That's how I know him or know of him.
And so even going into swimming, like he basically revolutionized the freestyle. Like he
Right.
was beating the world records by
Right.
seconds.
Right.
He was just the waterman of watermen.
Right.
Um, and there are these kids in Hawaii that are paddling, that are surfing, that are free diving, that are running with rocks underwater, doing all kinds of stuff that, we couldn't get
Yeah.
some of our top high schools or college teams to do this for cross training. And they're
Yeah.
just doing it for
For
after
fun.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just gonna go carry some rocks underwater. I love that. That's crazy. So I mean, is there a crossover there in Hawaii, or are kids? Or do they love? It's
It's
just too easy to have that wonderful ocean lifestyle, but to go jump in the pool and play water polo. Or are they crossing over?
some great athletes have been crossing over. I mean,
Yeah.
Craig Watson, I'm biased because he went to UC Irvine, um, and was one of my roommates at some times throughout the years. Phenomenal waterman, still surfs 50-foot waves, which I don't understand how his wife lets him, because my wife would kill me.
Right. Right.
um, we have Chris Duplanty, that went to the Olympics, Brandon Brooks that went to the Olympics, and so there's phenomenal athletes. It's just the consistency of it, of having high level competition
Yeah.
and opportunities, because again, the only island that actually offers boys high school water polo is Oahu.
Right. Interesting.
Um, so then for them to go to tournaments, they have to fly 3,000 miles, time zone difference,
Right.
and the cost.
Yeah.
I mean, think about you would love to come to Hawaii, and how often do you get to come to Hawaii? It's probably cost prohibitive and time prohibitive.
Yeah. That's true. Genai,
So
what
it's
does?
getting better. These major tournaments where they get to go and train with the team and then play,
Yeah.
8 games is really helpful.
In your mind, if everything goes perfectly, and we haven't defined what perfectly is by any means, but what does water polo in America look like 10 years if we get it right? Like as a governing body, as clubs, as coaches, and athletes, where would you like to see water polo grow to from your
I
seat?
don't want this to be misinterpreted. Um, I think there's a lot of focus on the number of registered water polo players,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just like to see this the participation grow at any level.
Right.
So that be like, it's hard with insurance and everything's, these days there's so many different things going to take into consideration.
Yeah.
But think about pickup basketball, right? Little kids are playing basketball on a rim in their house. They were playing soccer, kicking a ball against the door. So just flooding the market, flooding with little water polo balls.
Yeah.
They've got the little size ones, they have the squishy ones. Just if you're a water polo player, give those as gifts. I can't think of a vacation I've gone on when I haven't left a water polo ball with any kids than in a pool that have any interest in. Like I throw it around with my
Right.
own kids, and the last day I'll give it
Just
to
give it to
somebody.
them. Yeah. Yeah.
Just
I love
talk
that.
about beach polo. There's a
Yeah.
team that won Junior Olympics at Stanford Pool. Um, what's the from Tiburon, the Sharks, Tiburon
Oh, yeah.
Sharks.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you and I called the game, and I
Uh-huh.
afterwards, and I was handing out the medals, and the little kid goes, "Thanks for teaching me water polo." I was like, "Oh, did you come to one of my camps?" He goes, "No, when I was on vacation, we played beach water polo with you." And then I went home and found a club, and then
Wow.
I could go. So did I. There's two kids from two different teams that had their very first experience was playing beach polo in the middle of the bay.
Love it.
So that like those type of stories for me are phenomenal. So you don't have to be a Ryder Dodd or Chase Dodd or any type of Dodd. You could just be anybody, right? That has any water polo experience and just share with somebody. That's what I want to see. Okay. USA Water Polo is going to have their organized groups and splash ball from all the different clubs, but the organic growth of it is the way it's really going to explode, in
Right.
my opinion.
And so, I mean, I think one of those could be like almost every club should be offering free clinics, right? Get kids to come in and just try it, get people in the water. Because that's been my experience. Like if I can get them on my pool deck and you get 10 kids, I can get 5 of them to keep playing just because it's so
Look
fun.
at your growth, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
you're fortunate to have access to a pool,
Yeah.
but first year, how many kids did you have?
9 kids when I started.
That is four more kids than when I started a girls' high school program at Sage Hill. And
Yeah, there you
I'll
go.
tell you that story afterwards. So then year two, how many did you have?
We went up to like 20, 25, right? It was just because you're just continually preaching and like
Right,
can telling people
almost
how
300%, almost
good. Yeah,
300% growth,
yeah,
but
for
still
sure.
only 25. And what are you at today?
Today we average around 80 to 100, depending on the time of year. So
I mean, that's incredible. So like,
yeah,
if you can start with 9 and go to 50 kids in a club, you have a pretty
yep,
sustainable club right there,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
And I think people realizing that, and it's not to win Junior Olympics, but it's to
Yeah,
participate. There's 3 sessions now, right?
right.
Like of the most prestigious U.S. tournament in the
Yeah,
world, this most prestigious U.S. tournament. Um, but there's all these other tournaments you can still play in.
and I love your idea of giving the balls away, like because I mean, as a club, we go through balls pretty regularly, and so whenever we offer free clinics, I make sure all of the balls that are 3 or 4 or 5 years old that are no longer have any stick on them, no more fuzzies. I give those to those kids. They walk out with those kids, and I think that's the most amazing thing ever, right? It's just to walk out with a free ball and maybe a T-shirt, and it's
And then have some of your high school kids autograph them.
yeah, for sure. That's a
Like
great idea. I love that.
they're probably not even going to play in college, but for that level, they're superstars.
Right.
We do
Yep.
that, right? Like think about how many kids come to like a high school basketball game and just look up to them, or high school
Yep.
soccer game, look up to these kids. I think just being that role model, being that peer connection, like it's really, really important.
Yeah. Let's ask some rapid fire questions. Are we ready?
All
As we
right, let's go.
kind of wrap up. What's your favorite Olympic memory? Either that you've been in or been a part of?
This is not even competing. I remember going like at the warm up pool with all the swimmers. I gotta zoom out for this one. There's my bananas. And right, going up warming up. I'm in my Speedo. I was in shape, pretty ripped back then, shaking out all these guys. I don't know who else was there, but like I don't even know Mike Phelps and some of the other guys, but all these other
Yeah.
countries are looking at who is this guy? We don't know who he is. Splashing water on my face and then just going for this big belly flop dive and just kind of just everyone's tense, everyone's excited, focused on competing, and just for
Right.
that minute kind of just broke the tension for a lot of people.
Doing what Genai does,
Just
right?
being
I
Janai.
love it. I love it. Uh,
Tony Azevedo, right? Probably the biggest name in our sport. I think he still calls me the most recognizable athlete in our sport.
yeah, there you go. I love that. Okay, second rapid fire question. Best water polo advice you ever received?
I learned how to egg beater.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and then second, Craig Wilson. Um, to you, I said, how do you get quick reflexes? And he said legs. I'm like, "Wow." It's like Mr. Miyagi stuff. What do you mean legs? And then I realized, oh, going back to egg beater, the
Yeah,
more you can, the higher you can egg beater, the more you can actually use your hands out of the water rather
there you go.
than sculling in the water.
Okay, how about any current player at any level that you're most excited about watching develop over the next few years?
I was just texting. He's already developed. I was just texting Hans de Bo. Like he scored 11 goals in his professional game. Like
Wow.
uh, that's just silly. Yeah, I'm excited to see our men's U.S. team and what they continue to do.
Okay, great. Bronze medal performance. I've got a picture of them on the wall right there next to me here. So as they get ready to come into LA 2028, right? Like that's going to be exciting to see some water polo on the home soil.
Adrian playing like this, the techniques that I hate, and winning medals, right? Scoring
Yeah.
full court shots. Like you can't coach that.
How about this? How about what's the Genai Kerr message to the kid who just discovered water polo through splash ball or is just like starting the career? Like what message would you personally deliver to them?
Have fun. That's the only rapid fire answer I give you.
I love it. Genai, this has been amazing. Always fun to talk with you. Thank you so much for your support of Game On Live Studio. I've loved what you've done. I've also, let's see if I can do this without knocking it over. We've got the surfboard that everyone signed.
Oh yeah,
JOs. So that was a fun moment from this past JOs this past summer. But
dude, that's a keeper.
oh yeah,
go back in 10 years and look at where half of those names are.
yeah, it's going to be amazing. So thank you for everything you've done and supporting our journey. We really truly appreciate that.
Thanks for having me on. I just talked to Mark St. John this morning because I have a friend going out for World Championships for Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, you got to connect with my friend Mark, but I got to go because I got to hop on a podcast. And he's like, oh, I already did that. I was like, okay, well.
Yeah, like because MSJ is the goals legend too. The Game On Live Studio wouldn't exist without Mark. Wouldn't exist without you. It's there's some good stuff. I'm really excited about these.
Wouldn't exist without you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
And I know it's the end, but I can't help myself. Game on.
I love it. I love it. That is the signature. He started on the very first quarter.
At the ball drop. Sprints start happening as they're getting closer, coming for the ball. And as they drop it, it's game on.
Genai, you make me happy. And you make everyone around you happy. Thanks so much for everything that you've done for water polo. Good stuff.
Yeah, we'll catch up, man.
Okay, thanks, bro.
Double shock is right there.
Yeah. All right, appreciate it. Genai Kerr walked into the goals broadcast booth at Junior Olympics and changed everything. Not because he was an Olympic goalkeeper, though he was. Not because he's 6 feet and 8 inches tall, though that didn't hurt in goal. Because he understood what we were trying to build. Because he said yes when goals was unproven. Because he spent years since making sure the next generation of water polo players has opportunities he never took for granted. 5-meter camps, splash ball program, introducing thousands of kids to the sport, life in Hawaii, promoting water polo in places that need it most. And through it all, being the most approachable elite athlete in the sport, that's what a goals legend looks like. Not just someone who helped us succeed, but someone who embodies why goals exists at all. Every athlete deserves to be seen. Every kid deserves a chance to play. Genai gets that. Genai, thank you for walking into that booth. Thank you for never walking out. And thank you for making water polo bigger than just the people already playing it. This has been the Extra Pass Pod presented by Game On Live Studio. If this episode moved you, share it with someone who loves water polo or someone who's never heard of it. Next week, another goals legend who believed before anyone else. I'm Shawn Stringham. Stay in the game.